Hello. I want to show you my 31 Plymouth 4-door. Just got it a couple weeks ago, and doing some research online, I noticed there's not a whole lot of these that you can see anywhere. So figured while I try to figure out this car, you can figure it out along with me. Bought this from a friend of mine's cousin. He got it at an estate sale. It cranks over but doesn't run. It's heavy, so pushing it into the garage was a small feat of its own. So yeah, let's take a look at it. Open up the hood for you. Got ourselves a 4-cylinder. You got your generator, starter, oil fill. It's an L head. Water pump up in the front. Look over here, you got gearbox and coils, small fuse set. I'm really kind of happy. It's a complete car. I don't know how well you're going to see inside here with the lighting being what it is, but you got choke, throttle for crank start, shifter, it's a 3-speed, your e-brake. Down here you got your starter, gas, brake, clutch. You got ignition. This on the steering wheel does your lights. And this here is kind of an interesting feature. It's called freewheeling. It allows you, when you're going downhill, to disconnect the rear wheels from the transmission so you can coast. Coach doors. Nice roomy back seat. Not bad. And close this side of the hood and open up the other side. Over on this side, you have your fuel pump, fuel filter, carburetor, distributor, vacuum advance, which is something new to a car this old, heater hoses, come to the back of the car, you got your spare tire, fuel level, single brake light, and your fuel cap. Maybe we'll get this thing to fire up a little bit. The gas on it is at least 2 years old, so we'll have to do some cleaning on that, but let's get started. Alright, got a little bit of a setup going on here with some lights. We're going to go take a look at the ignition system, make sure everything's good there. How the ignition system works is over here you have your coil. Wire comes in from the ignition switch, goes to this terminal, comes out this terminal through this wire to your distributor. Now this here has 2 coils. One is your primary, one is your secondary. Your secondary comes out this. Now over here on the distributor, that wire that comes out of the primary goes here where there's a set of points, which is a little switch that when it's made charges the primary, makes a magnetic field in the coil, and then when it's broken, that magnetic field collapses and goes out the secondary to the center of the distributor. Now this happens right when the rotor inside lines up with one of these 4 connections, goes here, and fires one of your spark plugs. So let's go take this cap off, see how everything looks. Alright, now I got you guys in a place I can have both my hands free. Alright, so let's move this out of the way. Somebody wrap the coil up into it. Alright, so let me get a little bit better lighting. So here's that rotor I was telling you about. I can pick that up, move it out of the way. And here's that switch. What happens is this rotor has 4 lobes on it, and it moves this open to break that connection I was telling you about. So let's see if we can grab a screwdriver or something so I don't have to be the thing that breaks the circuit. Alright, so let's see. Do we have spark? Do we have ignition on? Let's see now. Yeah, we're sparking. Alright, one thing to keep in mind is right here there is a insulator, because this connection goes to this little metal foil that goes to the points, and this is grounded, so that could wear through and you could short out to the chassis, which would kill your spark, because that primary never gets shut off. Let's put this back together. I got a couple little sparks while doing that. You can kind of see right there. Now, one thing to note is those points, they can get corroded and they'll get a little fuzzy. You can take some high grit sandpaper, like 250 or higher, and you can clean it off a little bit. These don't look too bad. One other thing to note is this notch here lines up with a notch in the cap. And make sure that your timing and cap and everything are where they need to be. Alright, let's take a look at these spark plugs, see how they look. Yeah, not too bad. See, what can happen is, inevitably, one of these cylinders has an open valve at some point, and moisture can get in through either the exhaust, through the carburetor, and rust everything out. These look fairly good shape. Well, I guess we can bump one of these and see if we get spark. Ah! Don't ground yourself out, because that fucking sucks. But we definitely have spark. All right. Let's get some gas. Grab a towel and not spill gasoline on the paint. Tell you what, it's a hell of a way to wake up in the morning. So for you, so for you. And probably not enough for you, but Let's see, we're just looking to see if we can get it to cough a little bit. All right. These things sometimes get caught on the threads, make installing them a bit of a pain in the ass, but alright, snug these up a bit. Looks like I'll be making spark plug wires at some point. It's the thing about antique cars. You know, old cars you go to AutoZone, Advanced Auto, whoever, get parts. Classic cars you can go to Summit Racing or somewhere online to get parts. Not too many parts for a 31 Plymouth, just laying on a shelf somewhere. Alright, with it all back together, wake her up. Take it a little bit off of idle. And see what she does. Well, she runs. Just need to get fuel. Looks like sparking compression. For the little bit that it ran, didn't hear any god-awful noises, but didn't run long enough to see if the fuel pump runs. Let's see if we can figure out a way of getting it more fuel. See, the fuel pump has some kind of liquid in it. Can't necessarily say it's fuel. Probably don't want it to even go near, actually, into that carburetor. I have a feeling we'll be taking that apart and putting it together. A couple things to note. This is your throttle. Lied. This is your choke. This is your throttle. And this is the throttle for crank starting it. It would attach here and open the throttle a little bit. Because when you're cranking it, you don't want it to be at idle. You need it a little bit more. So that would open this up ever so slightly so that you could start it. Here's your air fuel mixture, idle screw, and this is for when you have the choke on, setting the fuel mixture, giving it a little bit extra gas. Alright, let's see if we can figure something out for more fuel. Well, welcome to the floor. I couldn't find a good way of hanging a gas tank and feeding the carburetor, so I guess it's as good a time as any to look at the fuel system. Here's the fuel tank. They're kind enough to give us a drain plug. Kind of looking over the tank, a few dents and dings, a little bit of surface rust, but looks like it should be able to hold fuel. One interesting thing, and it actually kind of bodes well for us. I'll move you over here. So that is the feed to the carburetor, and it is a hard line all the way to the front. I was afraid that I was going to have to replace a bunch of little rubber hoses and connections between lines and stuff, but I guess older does mean simpler. Alright, a little bit of a catch can. Let's spray this old plug with some magic stuff. This here is a freeze off. A buddy of mine, who's a mechanic, showed me that stuff years ago. It is truly magic in a can. One of the best penetrating oils I've ever seen. Now, who wants to guess whether this is left hand thread or right hand thread? No. Let's assume right hand thread for right now. Oh yeah. Yeah. Looks like she's not even close enough to be able to do it by hand, but now what I'm thinking, figuring out what is in here, which is more of that reddish pink fluid. Wondering if that's stable. You know what? Probably open the cap, allow air in. It's kind of weird. It smells like cough syrup. We'll let this drain out and then plug it back up, put some fresh gas into it, slosh it around, and see where that gets us. What I'm thinking is disconnecting the line over at the fuel pump, filling up the tank with some fresh gas, and with a vacuum pulling the gas from the tank through the line and kind of flush out the line that way. So this is the Mighty Vac I was telling you about. I took a peek down the gas cap and it looks like there's quite a bit of fluid in there. So what I was thinking was, while it's draining, we could use the Mighty Vac here. Now, I bought this a few years ago to help with oil changes on the Mercedes. The oil filter for the Mercedes is on the top of the engine. So slide this down the dipstick tube and you pump this and it creates a vacuum and sucks the fluid out. And it works really good for not having to crawl underneath cars to change oil. So let's see how well this works over here. Let's see if we can get some light into this. Bend around the curve. Alright. Well, I don't hear it draining underneath us anymore. So maybe that means that we've gotten it all. Alright, back underneath. Take our little drain plug. back in here. Tighten it down. Once I remember where I put those channel locks. There they are. All right. Okay, I say, let's put some fuel into it, slosh it around a little bit, and drain it. Get more of that red fluid out. Alright, that should be a decent amount. Take a quick peek with some light. Oh yeah, there we go. Alright, a little bit of agitation. You hear all kind of fluid shimming around doing this. All right. Oh yeah, that's nice and clean. Looks like this dent here could have ripped off the old one. Looks like there was a little bit of brazing done on the gas tank at some point in time. Bet you they just brazed a regular nut under the bottom of the tank. Alright, so while that's draining, I figured we'd come back into the engine bay and see if we can figure out how we're going to do this. So, right here is where the fuel line, the hard line from the tank, comes into the engine bay. It goes this little bit of rubber hose into here, which is the fuel filter supposed to be in here. There's not a fuel filter, but there's definitely plenty of crud and more of that red liquid. It goes into here, which is a fuel pump, runs off of the crankshaft, has a little diaphragm that goes up and down, some one-way valves to pump the fuel into this line. It goes up into our carburetor. What I'm thinking, seeing how that is a crimp-on line that I'm not going to be able to take apart, or if I am, I'm never going to get it back together. Thinking I will take this line off and use this little bit of hose to hook it up to the Mighty Vac and suck everything forward. Alright, well, these things are a notorious pain in the ass, so let's spray them. Put a little bit of this stuff. Let it break it free a little bit. Grab our trusty screwdriver. Yeah, that came off easy enough. Let's see about these. Might need a little convincing. Let me see if I can get some pliers on that. And don't light a match right now. The whole garage smells like gasoline. Let's take that off. Nope. Bigger than 7/16. Good old 1/2 inch. Yeah, I was reading the owner's manual to this and thought it was interesting that they mentioned everything in both SAE and in millimeters. Thought that was interesting. This one looks a little more corroded. I wonder what the chances of us getting this one out is. Oh! Well, looks like it's taking a friend. Now we got the piece we wanted off. Is that Teflon tape? Why would you use Teflon tape on gasoline? Alright, there we go. We'll put these two here so we can lose them later. And it's going to be a lovely little piece of rubber hose, but seeing how it's one of 2 pieces of rubber hose that I'm going to have to take off, not too worried about it. Everything. Wonder where the this set came with multiple tubes. I'm wondering where I put the intermediate sized tube. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this to clamp it down all the way, but see how I'm replacing it all? and not break it. You know? What did I do with that screwdriver? Ah, there it is. I find the easiest way to find something that you've misplaced is to go get another one. You will always find the original. Well, let's see. Yeah, makes a vacuum. That's good enough for me. Now I gotta slide this onto here. Alright, so off camera, I went and got the fuel tank all buttoned up and put some fuel into it. Let's see if we can siphon some and clean out this main line. Oh yeah, you can see it's pulling fuel, a little bit of crud with it, but I can see as it goes more, it's fuel's getting cleaner and cleaner. Might not be able to see that on the camera, but through the clear tube you can see the fuel flowing. Yeah, we've pulled about 4 quarts of fuel through this line. Fuel's looking real clean coming through it. Now let's hook her all back up. Try to do this without getting fuel everywhere. Alright, that's buttoned back up. How do you suspect you get this glass bulb out? There's a threaded bit. Maybe you just thread this down and this swings. Thread this down and this swings out of the way. And just like everything else on this car, It's going to be painfully simple once you figure it out. Alright. I found this is probably just supposed to be hand tight. But I'm sure the years have had something to say about that. See if I can get some pliers on it. Don't want to break anything because Lord knows if I'll be able to find a replacement. Huh? Feels like it's free. Like I said, that stuff is magic in a can. I guess the real question is, am I loosening or tightening it? Let's try the other direction a little bit. Well, that answers that question. I was tightening it. Alright. Well, there seems to be a whole kajinkus underneath here. Is it going to fall apart? Alright. And as I suspected, no fuel filter, but lots and lots of crud. Let's go clean this out. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like there was some kind of fuel that must have had stable or something in it, but it evaporated away, left all kind of deposits. A few fractures in the glass, but none of them look like they go through. They just look like they're probably stress cracks from being next to the hot engine. I think in the meantime, I'm going to run from this line here a inline fuel filter and then loop the hose up around and go into the fuel pump there. If I find a fuel filter, I just have two of them. I wonder if I hook up my vacuum to the output of the pump, if I could draw in fuel, maybe even prime this bowl a little bit. Let's see. Did notice there's three tabs on here. I wonder if that locks into a very cruddy possible gasket. whatever was inside of the bulb seems to be in the lid of this as well. I almost feel like the fuel filter should be in between the fuel pump and the carburetor at this point. But, well, there's also a good chance that I'm going to be taking this carburetor off, rebuilding it anyways. Stuff for a future video, I guess. Yeah. I don't feel any kind of locking tabs or anything, so I'm thinking those three little nubs are just to help center that bulb into this tray. Alright. So I sprinkle that crap all over the place. There's a nut with a little cup on it that just presses up against that. Holds it tight. You know, when I first started working on cars, all I had was hand tools like this. Me and a buddy of mine were like, oh man, it'd be so great to have those ratchet wrenches. So we bought a set. And I guess just out of habit, I always grab just the standard wrench. Alright. Alright. Well, hook up this little rubber piece back up to the vacuum and see if we can pull through the pump, which I would assume has just got a couple check valves. Inside here is probably a spring with a ball bearing that when the pump draws, it lifts the spring up and allows fuel to come in, and then when the pump goes to push it to the carburetor, slams that shut, opens that one up. Alright. Grab our little bits of tubing. See what we can make of it. Hopefully this doesn't leak. Length of hose I have and how everything's coming together. Looks like if it does, it's going to dribble right onto this fender, onto this black paint that's in fairly good shape. Alright. Bring this a little bit closer. Let's see. Yeah, it's filling up that glass bulb. You hear it slurping a little bit. Alright. We got fuel. Alright, I'm going to look and see if I can find a fuel filter and some hose. There's a good chance I got some sitting around in the garage somewhere. I'll bring you back when I find it. Okay, well, I took a look through the garage and wasn't able to find it, so went to the parts store and got myself a piece of hose and a nice shiny new fuel filter. Let's see what we can cobble together. First I'll see. Alright, so that's the in. See if I can connect that to that and see where that puts us so we know what length of hose we need. Yeah, let's do that. Lovely wind chime I have hanging on the wall behind me. How easy is this to pull off of here? Ow! And punch half of my engine. I'll never understand why these have never been converted over to Phillips. I mean, I know I could probably just do this and it will work a billion times better. But I don't know about you, I never think of that. Alright. So that's the inlet side. So let's say do about that, and do a loop that comes up from there to there. So onto here. Alright, that's nice and snug. These don't need to be in there anymore. Alright, now we just need to figure out how we're going to round this circle. Round this circle. Sometimes I surprise myself with my stupidity. Don't want to kink it. At the same time, I also don't want it to be touching the extremely hot fuel pump. Let's go there. Let's say right about there. Yeah. That is forever wanting to be on there. Alright. Yeah, I was thinking until, or even if, I can find a replacement filter for inside here, I can at least have this fuel filter. And then, in the event that I find a proper fuel filter, I can just have two fuel filters. Before I put that on there and never be able to get it off again. See if we can take a bit more off of this. Probably there. Let's see. There's those channel locks. Can we move this? Come on, radiator hose. Give us a little bit more favorable of an angle. Trying to, this line here is the sump from the, this is the oil pump, and this is pulling it out of the oil pan into the pump. I'm going to try to keep the fuel line away from that best I can. I think if I cut it there, yeah, see, it's not kinking anything, and keeps that kind of out of trouble. Where's that knife? My dad always told me to make things stop before they go. Kind of breaking that rule a little bit on this one, but you know, I'd hate to have nice brakes on a vehicle that doesn't run because then all you really have is a really nice soapbox derby car. Alright, loosen this up a little more to get around the barb. There we go. Now, you generally don't need to have a clamp on these barbed fittings, but I don't trust it. It's a little belt and suspenders, but alright. Now, while we have the vacuum up, let's pull a little bit more fluid through it, maybe even prime that filter we just installed. Hey, you can see the air sloshing into that fuel, that little glass bulb. That's good. Just wasting fuel at this point. Alright. Well, how do we do with this little piece? Put this back. Half-inch, I believe. I had a 66 Impala that, if I wasn't careful, would always leak in that connection between the fuel pump and carburetor. Drive me mad. Alright, let's disengage this. And remove this from the equation. And then we'll get to see how well the carburetor works. See if the float works. Inside here there's a little metal bulb that well, it floats. So fuel gets pumped into here and it floats up, and as it floats up it closes a valve in here, and then as the engine uses gas it goes down there and it kind of meters this little area. There to about there. Now, if this all works, the engine's going to run long enough for us to be concerned with things like oil pressure. So I'll have to go and look at the gauge, make sure that's, oh, which one did I use? That one, okay. Make sure that the engine has oil pressure and hopefully the gauge works. Oh, see? I almost did it. While I was at the store getting fuel lines and fuel filters, I also got myself a 6-volt charger, because everything I had was 12 volt and I didn't want to charge a 6-volt battery with a 12-volt charger. You can do that for a little bit, but do it for too long, and it's a good way of burning your garage down. There's our wind chime again. The line's a little bit big, but we'll get it and just clamp it down real good. Well, I guess now's the moment of truth. Let's get you situated. Alright, now that we got a little bit of light in here, I can kind of show you a little bit better what I was talking about at the beginning. You have here your clutch, your brake. This is your throttle, and here's your starter button up here. Handbrake, obviously your gear shift. This is that freewheeling knob I was telling you about. Choke, and then your throttle for crank starting it. The little white knob, I believe, goes to the heater, which is that silver thing you see on the floor over there. Gauges wise, you have oil pressure. In a moment, we'll be paying close attention to that. Water temperature, here's your speed and miles. Amps, we'll be seeing if the charging system works. And then over there is the fuel gauge. It's seen better days. And last but not least, ignition. All right. Make sure that we don't leave any tools sitting around anywhere. They could present themselves as a problem. I'm also going to take the radiator cap off. I don't plan on running it for too terribly long, but I also don't want it to build any pressure. There's a lot of fittings that need to be greased and lubricated, and I want to be as kind to them as possible. Brakes go straight to the floor. All right, let's pull the choke and see if we can get her to sputter to life. Don't know if that fuel pump is pumping, first of all, and second of all, the carburetor probably needs to be filled. So See if we can give her a little bit of help. Plenty of fuel in there. Don't see any fuel leaking, that's good. Let's fuss with that person. Yeah, that's gonna be something to deal with in a little bit. Let's see if that helps. Using a piece of hose as whew. Well, a little bit of something burning off the exhaust. Well, you see any oil pressure on that? See if we can get it to go a little bit more. Close. We need to. Let's actually pull the choke. She's running, got good oil pressure. A little bit of a fuel leak at that glass bulb. I bet you some of that I cleaned out was a gasket, or I didn't get all of it out. Shouldn't be too hard, probably make some kind of a Cheerio box or something. Sounding good. Nothing too crazy from the valve train. We got the coolant flowing. Yeah, something's swirling around in there. Looks like the air fuel mixture is take it off a choke and it starts having a hard time running. Well, I think that's all I got going on for it today. I don't want to push my luck. I was thinking about possibly jacking up the back end of the vehicle and testing out the transmission, but my luck, it'd fall off the jacks and I don't have any brakes. So, until next time.